Good afternoon, guys, and I just stepped on a dog toy. Happy Thursday to all of your sunshiny faces. Guys, I am going to take a shower. It is actually almost midnight, guys. I stayed up a little too late tonight. Honestly, because I was getting so much stuff done for today. I actually edited 4 vlogs. I thought I was gonna get to 6, but we ended up watching a TV show that ended up taking a little bit longer today. We stayed up until like 8 something, and then or watched it till like 8:30 or close to 9 o'clock. And I was like, oh, I'll go back in my room and then edit, and then try and get to another 2, like actually get 6 done today would have been awesome. But I went in there to go and do that, and I was like, oh, you know what, I should probably actually make my grocery list, because I still haven't made my grocery list for this week yet. And then I was like, well, I want to kind of wait to do it with Jack, just because we're planning on, you know, whatever he wants to do for his like lunch stuff, or, you know, his meal planning and all that kind of stuff, which I was telling you guys about yesterday. So again, that was kind of my thought, was to do that, and then I was like, it's too late, I'm just not even gonna try and get to it. But guys, I felt like I had so much stinking energy for today, because I ended up I used my French press to make my coffee today, and so I was like, yes, I've got like all this energy from this caffeine today. When I have that, like seriously, it is like, that is like straight pure caffeine. I don't know why, like, you know, I've had medium roasts before from the Keurig, like having the Keurig, you know, like K-cups or whatever. I just feel like there's something different about having it from a French press. Like, it just tastes, I don't want to say pure, like it's more straight caffeine, but like I've noticed I have way more energy actually when I have that. I just don't know if it's like the way that like normal coffee is brewed like that, or from like, you know, if it was like a normal coffee pot, not even just saying like the Keurig, because that's just single cup, but it's basically the same thing as having like normal coffee pot. But I feel like maybe it's just is the French press, like there's, I don't know, maybe I just make it stronger too, and so that's why. But I feel like it's so wasteful, but like I don't really use that much. I actually use less than what they say. I think it's 2 cups or like 2 scoops per or I'm sorry, 1 cup of water per 1 scoop of coffee. And and that's like goes for the French press. I think that's the same with a regular coffee pot as well. But I only do 2, and like I use my medium Starbucks coffee. I don't know, like I said, I was like, had so much energy to try and get stuff done in the middle of the day, and then by the end of the day I was kind of like, I kind of wore myself out. Because I also too, I took the hose around and went outside and watered everything outside, because our grass is like stinking dead outside, which is super bizarre to me, because when we had those days where it was like 90, you know, almost 100 degrees and stuff like that, it was still like totally green outside, and now all of a sudden it is just like desert out there. Like there is no green almost anywhere in our lawn at all. I was like, this is pretty much all dead. It probably needs to have a good watering. And like, it just rained not too long ago, like a few days ago, you know. It's not like we've been in a drought for like it's like 3 weeks or something like that, you know. Like it just rained a few days ago, and again last week we had that horrible storm, and it downpoured, you know. And then again just a few days ago I think it rained. I don't remember what day that was, but it was just a couple days ago. No, maybe it was last weekend, like not even a full week ago. Like Saturday or Sunday, maybe, something like that. So yeah, guys, like I said, I don't really totally know. I'm trying to think though. I don't know. Maybe it was actually the week before that. But that doesn't make sense though, because I feel like it was post bad storm, and that was 2 weeks ago, so I don't know. Back when we lost power. Anyways, so I took the hose outside and went through all the flower beds, watered out all the plants, watered all of the what's it called, the grass. And then I I have to pretty much every day though water the window boxes and the hanging plants just because they dry out so quickly. I didn't water anything yesterday. I did the day before that. So I did it at night though, and so I ended up doing it early this morning. I watered all of those things. So it was kind of like a little more than 24 hours that it hadn't been watered. So normally I water those, like I said, the flower boxes in the front yard and in the one in the front of the house, and then the one in the garage, and also all the hanging baskets. So there's the one that's in the front on the front porch, there's 2 in the back, and then also to the potted rose bush in the back, and then also to all of the herbs that are still in the greenhouse, which I think we're just leaving in there. Like, we haven't brought them out. They're doing really well too. Like, the basil's stinking like crazy. The cilantro, it's weird, the cilantro didn't actually do as well from the beginning. Not the greatest. I think the parsley is okay, but I don't know if it's parsley or not. I actually think it's a weed that ended up in the planter. Although it doesn't look like any weeds I've ever seen before, but it doesn't look like parsley either. Like, I'm like, this doesn't look like, I know that I think there was 2 different varieties of parsley actually that I planted. Was like curly parsley and like regular parsley, so maybe that's what it was, but it didn't to me totally look like regular parsley. And then there was another thing too. Oh, the thyme's actually doing pretty well. So like I said, there's the bucket that has basil, sage, and chives all in it. That was the bucket you guys might have seen that we were doing the potatoes in earlier. And then I took the potatoes out and transplanted them into the garden, the actual flower garden. It's like once there was no frost left or anything like that, and then planted the basil and sage in there, and it's been doing awesome. So no complaints. That's actually something that we could probably bring inside and leave. Like, we had it in the house anyway, so it's probably something that we can bring inside and leave in here and just have fresh basil, and then again transplant it, not transplant it, bring it back outside again next year. On top of that too, guys, I think I've shown you guys the greenhouse. I think at the beginning of spring I showed you guys the greenhouse, and wouldn't you know it, guys, like everything, we want to do more projects, because why not? But I was looking on Pinterest because I think I was telling you guys we had to put actual like plastic over the top of the greenhouse, a second layer, because the greenhouse, like, I don't know, it got a ton of, not holes, like, I don't know, something happened with the plastic. Like, the plastic like was like shredding, not shredding either, I don't know how to describe it, but basically like all of the little like the greenhouse, right? So it has like a mesh sort of, and then like it's like a mesh plastic mixture. That's sort of what the greenhouse is made out of. But the mesh part is fine. All of the plastic that's the actual covering of the greenhouse all like chipped apart. Like, I don't know if it got too cold over the winter and so it froze, and then like, like something happened with that. But as far as I knew, you could leave it up. Like, I didn't necessarily know that it had to be taken down, because like if we don't get a horrible winter, so we could leave some of the stuff in the greenhouse over winter. Like sort of do like a cold box, cold something. It's called something cold something. I was just looking this up too. I think not cold box, not cold storage, cold, I don't remember, guys. Basically, like, it's sort of making it over. You can do them on your raised garden beds. I was looking at that too. On the tip of my tongue, and I cannot remember what the word is, but you can do them over like the raised garden bed, sort of like we have when you can make it, and use like plexiglass or real glass windows, like old windows or whatever, and use it for, again, the cold something. I don't remember what it's called. But basically, so that you can still grow stuff when it's snowing out, when it's cold out. As long as it's not covered or anything like that, it won't affect the plants, right? Especially things that like the cold anyway, like lettuce and kale and spinach and that kind of stuff. You can still grow that in the winter. So my thought was that like we could still do that in the greenhouse, but the fact that the greenhouse plastic doesn't survive the winter, or doesn't just like, I don't know if it was just like because it's a year old now and it decided it didn't like being around or whatnot. And so we had to cover it ourselves manually with another piece of like plastic, like this sort of heavy duty like tarp plastic stuff, but it's clear. So we ended up, my dad did that, but in the really bad storm, most of that tore apart. And so like most of it, it's still kind of like attached from the clamps that we put down, but it's kind of like ripped to pieces. So the greenhouse is kind of pointless. It's totally open other than, again, the meshing part, but if it rains in there, it's gonna rain into the greenhouse. So anyways, the whole point was, I was like, well, why don't we can make a greenhouse that, again, whoa, I just slid on the chair. This is up against the table. We can make a greenhouse that is actually not, again, secured into the ground or anything like that. We can do it sort of just like a frame, and then we can just do plexiglass over it. It can survive through the winter because plexiglass will last through the winter instead of, again, this kind of cheapy plastic greenhouse that we got. And it will also, you know, it's a little bit more stable, durable, and like I said, it will last. So that was the other thing we're sort of looking at. Now, I don't know that we're maybe going to get it done this year, but I'd love to have it done by this year. And then on top of that too, the other thing we can do is actually make built-in benches, because right now we have a folding table sort of thing in the greenhouse that we have for the plants. And so I was like, we could build then something that's actually built in the greenhouse for the actual plants. I was like, that makes way more sense than just having a table set up in there. So again, I was looking into some of those ideas because, like I said, guys, I have an unlimited supply of ideas that I'm always thinking about. Let's build this, let's do this thing, let's get this stuff done and taken care of and all that kind of stuff. And again, I feel like this is going to be the first year where we have the most amount of time to get that kind of stuff done, because normally as soon as like at this point in any given year, actually probably even last month, like in July, football camp would have started, which means that Jack would have been gone for football camp. And like, this is how it's been for, again, over a decade that we've had football going on and stuff like that. But normally in July, I think it was end of July or beginning of August. No, actually I think it was mid-July was when football would start for Park District, and then kind of the same with high school as well, right? So like my dad and Jack and Matthew normally were pretty much always involved when Jack was old enough then to be involved in football for pretty much over a decade. And you know, then when Jack and Matthew, you know, Matthew was in high school and Jack was in, you know, youth football, and then when Jack's now in high school, my dad's coaching high school, so it's like football camp starts actually pretty much when summer starts, as well as summer camp, and then actual football and stuff like that. And so all the way up until normally October, we have, you know, from July, or not even June sometimes, all the way through October is sort of football season. And so it's, you know, like I said, always a ton of stuff that's going on. And, you know, especially to my dad not being here to be able to help with the projects, not having an able-bodied hands, extra hands, you know, Matthew and Jack, even though Matthew's at school right now, but still, you know, kind of that whole thing, like, it was just, it took up so much of our time. And like, this is the first year like that we're gonna have football in the spring now, but you know, we can actually kind of keep the momentum from our summer stuff going into fall as well, and keep those projects going. So I'm like, let's not stop, let's have an unlimited amount of projects that we could keep doing. So even if we're like, we can't get this done this year, we can get it done next year and stuff like that, it's still like, let's try and get as much done as possible. Let's try and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And so I, like I said, want to come up with as many like projects and stuff like that as possible, and so that's, like I said, my thing I've been going with. But it looked pretty easy too, and again, it wasn't anything that we'd have to like dig or, you know, secure really into the ground crazy or anything like that. For the most part, you know, I mean, we want to make sure that it doesn't like blow away, but it'll probably be heavy enough that it won't blow away. I mean, it is sort of the same thing too with like the raised garden beds that we have. None of that's actually secured into the ground. We just have it in the ground. It's not a tall structure or anything like that, but I still feel like at the same time it's easy to, you know, it's kind of like a playhouse almost, was kind of how I was describing it to my dad. I was like, it's really not like, you know, anything like, you know, it's just we're gonna make a door and a couple shelves in there. So, and we do it all with plexiglass, and then we don't have to, you know, it's more secured too from the elements, because I noticed even we had one frost, and like later frost, I think maybe it was in like April or something like that, and we went outside and covered up most of the plants, and I thought everything in the greenhouse would be fine, and my mom was saying the same thing. She's like, I really wonder if you should cover this stuff in the greenhouse. She's like, I don't know if you should or not. She's like, it should be okay because it's like plastic and everything like that, but we realized that like some of the stuff looked like it did take a little bit of damage from the frost, or maybe just the cold or whatever it was, but some of it like didn't look the greatest. And so I was kind of wondering too if it was like, well, that greenhouse didn't actually have the proper, like, you know, frost resistant as like I think plexiglass possibly would in protecting it. So yeah, like I said, guys, I noticed that too with the hostas. The ones in our front yard, which normally are huge, like they get really big and full, there's a huge like empty sort of spot because they didn't get super mature this year. And I think that's why, because I noticed that with a few other plants. I think the lilies in the backyard, the Asiatic lilies, was the same thing. They got pretty tall last year, but this year they didn't, and there was only like a handful of flowers on them. Like there wasn't that much. So I don't know if it was maybe like they didn't get enough water this year, or if it was maybe because again we had such a late frost and we didn't cover all of the plants, you know, which like most of those plants are prone to being used to that kind of stuff. A lot of outside plants, not all of them, but you know, I didn't think it was going to affect them really all that much. But I did notice it seems like they didn't get as big and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and as many blooms I think as in years past. So yeah, like I said, I think that had something to do with it. But I've been thinking about that too, guys. Like I said, my brain is always going. I'm always coming up with all kinds of projects and stuff like that to get done. So that's the new thing, guys. We're gonna build a greenhouse in the backyard, but it's just gonna be a replacement of where our current greenhouse is right now, which is just staked into the ground too. So like if that hasn't blown away and like nothing has happened to that, especially after the storm we just had, I feel like it is gonna be okay if we do a little small greenhouse sort of thing and build it in the backyard. And it doesn't have to be super tall or anything like that either. We'll probably have it like shorter than the 8-foot fence that we have in the backyard. Like you know, even at the tallest point we don't have to, because the other sides are actually going to be them where the plants are going to grow. So it's just more for like starting seeds and stuff like that too, which is where we had the seeds started for this this year. And then again, I kept all of the herbs out there just because that's where I started them, and I left them out there, and I don't know where else I want to put them, so I just have left them out there, which is okay, I guess, because we've gone out a couple times and picked like some basil, and we haven't really picked any sage, but we did pick some, I think, chives and stuff like that. But again, the other stuff doesn't look like it's doing all of that great, so that's why. But the stuff in that one, I don't know if it's maybe even the potatoes like help nutrients, like make nutrients for the soil or something like that. But you know, that one pot seemed to be doing way better than the other ones, and I don't know why. So I don't know if having the potatoes in there first helped do something with the soil or what it was. But those, like I said, the basil and all the sage and chives actually look really good. So anyways, guys, I need to go take a shower and get to bed. I will see you guys all in tomorrow's vlog. If you guys did enjoy today's, make sure you guys give a big old thumbs up. If you guys are new, we'd love it if you'd subscribe, and I'll see all of your sunshiny faces tomorrow. So bye, guys.